I usually don't mention offices other than the Selectmen and Finance Committee when I do my introductions, but seeing as the person is here and sitting with us, as he always is for every town meeting, he helps to organize it, get everything ready, break it down, and we'd like to congratulate this newest member of the Board of Health, Mr. Nibbin O'Toole. Congratulations, Nibbin, and welcome to the Board of Health. We'd also like to thank Jerry Buffton and Debbie Grant for their years of service to their respective boards. We wish them well in any future endeavors that they may pursue. All speakers must be recognized by the moderator before speaking. All questions, comments, or discussion should be directed to the moderator. I will redirect that to the appropriate person for a response. Please state your name and address before speaking. All remarks should be to the article under discussion. Unless rising to answer a question, any person may speak only twice during any one article or motion. All proposed amendments, did I say that right? All proposed amendments should be given to me in writing. The only hands that will be counted during hand votes are those from people who are voters who are seated in the hall. Standees will not be counted, so I encourage all standees to take a seat before the first vote is taken. The only people in the hall right now should be registered voters in the town of Clinton or people who have been given prior permission by myself to observe the proceedings. Unless I hear an objection, I will dispense with the reading of the warrant, as you should all have copies of this in front of you now. And with that, going to the special town meeting warrant, we'll go to Article 1. Ladies and gentlemen, there were a couple of people that came in after the count, but we're still short. We have 201 people in the hall at this moment. So what the selectmen have asked to do is if we can make an appeal, we are live on channel 8 now. And if we can make an appeal, we'll give it a shot that way, see if we can get the number of people here that we need. Quorum being 200, the quorum is 250 registered voters for the annual town meeting. We have 201 people in the hall right now. So we're going to make an appeal over Channel 8 through cable, which is televising this meeting live, to see if we can get some more people here. So we will see how that works. And so if we are on TV, which I believe we are, at this point I would like to appeal to those who are watching this meeting on TV. We are 40 some odd people short of a quorum, and we would ask you if you could quickly come down and help yourself, help the town, and do your civic duty and come down to help us achieve this quorum for the annual town meeting. We will reconvene with the count. It is 7:25 now. At 7:45 we will recount. 7:45. Thank you. My understanding of this is that, and we can get clarification from the assessors, that if you choose to accept this would exempt personal property paid by small businesses from being taxed. Right now, businesses are taxed not only for the real estate that they own at the $32 rate, but also the personal property they own in relationship to the business. This article, if you choose to accept it, would decrease the first $10,000 of that, and it is being proposed by the assessors to help small businesses to get a fair shake and not have to pay that additional tax, even though it does exist right now. And my understanding from the Board of Assessors is that depending upon how this worked out and what the dollar amount was of the assessment change, the average cost per household, based on an average home value of $130,000, which is what the figure is in Clinton, would be somewhere between $2 and $6 a year to the average home. Okay? Not per thousand, per year. Okay? Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Sir.
David Baird, 15 Dyke Drive, Chairman of the Assessors. What this article does basically is it eliminates a tax that's on small personal property accounts, very small businesses. This $10,000 amount is something that's been proposed for the first time this year in the legislature, and it does give a fairer shake to some of the really small businesses that are trying to grow. And if you feel that you're trying to promote small business in town, this is something that I would ask you to consider. Thank you.
Article 22.
Mr. Moderator, I make a motion that we move Article 22 to the end of the warrant.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Moderator.
Article number 22, dealing with zoning bylaw changes. There's 3 items involved under this one article. Delete all the existing sections of the present zoning bylaw in their entirety, except Article 3, Section 3.2. Renumber the existing Article 3, and add all the new recodified zoning bylaws as recommended by the Clinton Planning Board. And that was available in the town clerk's office. And I realize most of you sitting here, it might as well be written in Greek.
Hey, hey.
Well, at least one person could read it anyway. He could interpret it for us all. Questions, comments, or discussion under Article 22? Sir? What's that?
True.
What did you do?
I moved it to the end of the warrant. Sometimes I think I'm speaking Greek.
Apparently, the Board of Selectmen would like to move this to the end of the warrant. They feel this has the potential to be a rather lengthy article, I believe is the reasoning behind it. So the motion in English is to move this article as to the last article on the warrant. Any questions or comments on that? If not, all in favor signify by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. Article 22 is moved to the end of the warrant. Article 23. Sir, if you want to speak, please come forward, state your name and address. No shouting from the back, please. Thank you. Sir?
John, I heard you say you don't recognize Robert's rules.
You making a point of order, Jack?
Yeah, if need be, sure.
Okay.
I understand the Robert's
annual
rules.
town meeting in Clinton is run by the Clinton Town Bylaws as first written in 1914. We have not adopted Robert's rules for an open town meeting, and I wouldn't recommend that we do.
You win what?
I would not recommend that we do. I can run this meeting under whatever rules the people here want.
Well, I
but
thought
Robert's rule, Jack, you asked the question, let me explain it. Robert's rules is very restrictive, and I don't think anybody in here wants to see their moderator gaveling people out of order because they haven't strictly conformed with Robert's rules of order. They get up, they shouldn't have to be an expert on procedure to be able to state their piece. And that's why the town, given where they're having an open town meeting, which we have, has left it as it is.
On an open town meeting, it's based upon parliamentary procedure, which
Correct.
is based upon Robert's rules. My way of thinking.
Okay, thank you. Sir? Questions, comments, or discussion under the amendment only? Under the amendment only. Jack, is your question dealing with the amendment? Or, okay.
Next year. 5 to 6. If this is passed, they're going to open up a can of worms. We got too many licenses in the town of Clinton today. Don't they go per capita when you issue a license for the population of the town? That's a question. Why is there a need of another package store in town? Full liquor license.
This request is for a citizen's petition for what is known as the Beer and Wine Store, 1183 Main Street, which is almost on the Lancaster border down a little bit, actually beyond Shaw's. And that's why it's on the warrant.
Full retail liquor license. I believe that's what it says here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a full liquor,
Correct.
not beer and wine.
There is beer and wine already there. If this is approved, they will turn into the town their beer and wine license, and then they would receive the full liquor license.
A full liquor license.
Takeout only.
Don't we have enough as it is? Don't we have enough as it is?
You want me to answer that?
They got an A and A center uptown. This isn't going to help the A and A center.
Is there any further questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, we'll take a vote at this time. All in favor of eliminating the strong chief statute for Clinton would vote yes. All those, please vote at this time. Thank you, and opposed? Shit. One hand only, please. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Now we will go back to, we want to count. Due to the nature of this article, do I have 7 people who question the count? We do. I'm going to call for a ballot vote on this article. Now, if you can all remember where we were when we started this.
Article 13.
Luckily, I wrote it in my notes.
Mr.
We're going
Moderator,
Article 13. I'd like to start off by having a moment of silence for a former town employee well known to all of us, having passed away in the last year. Member of the Board of Health and your town hall custodian, James Niven O'Toole. We could have a moment at this point. Thank you. On a happier note, I'd like to welcome back from Afghanistan Representative Harold Naughton, who was here with us this evening. Standing in the back. Mr. Ward.
Those are expenses that we use to run the selectman's office and the town hall, other expenses in the town hall. During the budget downturn of the last couple of years, that had been cut in half. It was $14,000 previously, and the selectmen felt it should be brought back up to the original line item from the $7,500.
I heard a rumor that it was for computers. Is that true? Equipment?
No, that's on the following, couple line items further down. Computer equipment, that's for our network and technology for the town hall here. Again, that was $10,000 a
Right.
couple of years ago. That was cut down to $2,250, which barely just pays our internet service and any emergency we have. So again, the selectmen felt that that really needed to be brought up so we could try to, do more with our technology, our website, our networking here at the town hall. So.
I question that. We're at the CMS, Clinton Middle School, and we're running on nothing for computers, dinosaurs. Our school budget went down, and now you seem to be getting quite a bit of equipment and extra expenses as selectmen. Don't you see any increase for the school to get computers and technology? I don't see any of that coming in, but you get to have an increase with my money, with their money.
Again, just a
I guess you'd have to go through the school committee and ask them if they even asked for that. I don't know.
Well, I'm asking the town, because this is our money going to the Board of Selectmen.
As long as you're pertaining, I mean, the article pertains to the $10,000 to the Board of Selectmen, has nothing to do with the schools, so you should pertain to
They can
that.
come and borrow our computers at the CMS and, see how they run, the dinosaurs. Takes us a lot to communicate with parents. 20 minutes to get an email out. A lot of money going to computers.
Any further activity on the Board of Selectmen?
Can I move to cut that?
Yes?
I move to cut that back.
There's a motion to cut the $10,000 in the last line of the Selectmen's budget, computer equipment and supplies, from $10,000
I make a motion?
to what?
Second the motion?
You haven't made a motion yet first, ma'am. You made a motion to cut the budget.
Cut it back.
Cut it back to what?
Better read it again. To $2,250.
Okay. Motion's been made to cut the Selectmen's computer equipment and supplies from $10,000 to $2,250. Is there a second on that motion? Seconded. Questions, comments under the proposed amendment to the budget? There being none. All in favor of cutting the $10,000 back to $2,250, please raise your card in the air. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. The amendment is defeated. Back to the main. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Hello, nice to see you. You should be recognized first, ma'am, but go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. My name is Mary Pitts, 21 Lawrence Street. I move to make an amendment to Article 7 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or take from available funds and transfer to the school department the sum of $300,000 or act in any manner relating thereto, as we are bleeding in our schools and sadly
Just motion first,
underfunded.
please. Motion first. All right. Is there a second on that motion? Okay. All right. I'm afraid we're going to have to rule that motion out of order. The reason being that the budget in Article 3 has been passed, and the money cannot be spent by the school department because they've only allotted so much money to spend. So, in order to do that, we would have to pass this article, and then we would have to go back to Article 3 and amend that $300,000 upwards in the school budget to spend. But because we have reconsidered Article 3 already, we cannot go back to Article 3. So therefore, that would be inappropriate to do and illegal. I'm sorry, but the law is the law on that. Still under discussion under Article 7. As I stated previously, we do have enough signed-in people to begin the annual town meeting warrant. I did have one just thing I wanted to mention in terms of procedure. I've already been asked twice about moving articles, and this warrant is a little complicated. It's a lot to it. The only time we're going to accept a motion to move an article is if it makes sense in terms of the meeting itself as a whole. So there is one that we're going to try from this level to ask you to move later on, but by and large, we're not going to accept motions just to move it because my friends are here or something like that. Okay, with that, we can go right to, this meeting is now open. We can go to Article 1. Okay, question. Your vote, we're discussing right now the difference, the $100,000 difference between is there any discussion on that? Sir.
Jim Tumalo, 32 Pondview Drive, member of your Finance Committee. As you know, the Finance Committee allots the resources of the town to all the departments. We go through this with every single department head. I know the school could use the money, but, you know, the school has $600,000 in their budget, $150,000 for technology and books, another $60,000 for a truck, $600,000 for asbestos removal, $300,000 for the track, and $150,000 for this Clinton Middle School. All are worthy projects. But we felt that $150,000 was enough. It's a 4% increase. Even though I know they could use it, you have to look at all the other departments. Second thing, this comes out of free cash. There is not enough free cash to pay $250,000. Do the math. So therefore, Mike, what happens here, if this article comes out of free cash, we can't borrow it. That's my understanding. So I don't know what happens then. I guess the budget's out of balance. Might have to come back again. Good question. Even I don't have the answer. So I'm asking you to disapprove the $100,000 increase. Realize that, you know, an over 4% increase for the school is a great accomplishment for this budget. Hopefully we'll get the improvements done for the middle school, which really needs them. Start working on the track, which is, you know, I've walked the track 3 or 4 times. It needs to be fixed. Again, it's a tough year. We don't know what's going to happen next year. I ask that we keep it at $150,000. Thank you.
And we'll take a vote at this time. All in favor of the amendment to Article 25, please raise your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Eesh. Let's try this again. All those in favor of the amendment to Article 25, please indicate by raising your card now. Thank you. All those opposed? Okay, the amendment passes. As written in your warrant, all those in favor of making the town treasurer an appointed position should vote with their cards now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Yikes. Okay, thank you, cards down. I'm going to try this once more. All in favor? All opposed? Can I have my tellers up front, please? I cannot tell. Any further questions, comments, discussion before we start? Ma'am. Sir, whatever that, I can't see.
Yeah, Mike Broderick, 19 Hill Street in Clinton. You expect us to vote on a budget and you don't even know what it's gonna cost us, right? That's what you're saying.
Well, I know it's gonna.
So we shouldn't be voting on this until we know what it's gonna cost.
Well, we do. We don't know what the cost of the budget will be until it's voted on by the town meeting. So until the town meeting can vote to cut departments, not fund articles, so until we know what the town meeting is funding, then we put into the calculation the formula for the tax rate. So we don't do a tax rate based on scenario of maybe this, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. I mean, once town meeting acts, then we take it from there.
So all that money's in here that we're supposed to act on tonight, we can shut it down or raise it, or is it just something, I don't understand how it goes to where we can vote on a budget that we don't even know what it's gonna cost us. It just, that should be in here, you know, this is what your tax bills are gonna go up. Not, well, I don't know, we don't have the numbers. That don't make sense.
Mr. Moderator?
Just my opinion.
Mr. Conley?
I think the question was asked, how much, if this budget is approved as it's written, how much additional money will that cost the taxpayers of the town of Clinton? And the answer to that question is the $544,258, which is the increase in the levy limit that's allowed by Proposition 2.5. That's what it's going to cost the community of Clinton. How it breaks down to each individual property owner is an impossible task for this board to tell each person, because everyone's tax rate, everyone's property value is different. So to give each one of you an answer of what that's going to cost you on your tax bill, it is a pretty awesome task for us to do. We have a board of assessors that'll do that for us. But the bottom line is, it's $544,000 is what this proposed budget will cost the property taxpayers above and beyond their last year's tax bill.
Are there any other questions before we start going department by department? Yes, ma'am.
Because that's going to force people to be fiscally responsible. Sorry, I'm very nervous. Fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Wait a minute. Please. Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask that everyone give courtesy to everyone speaking. It takes a strong backbone to get up and speak at town meeting, and you may or may not agree with whatever is being said by whomever, but I would ask that you please be courteous to everyone who's up and not interrupt them. To the 99% of you who didn't need that, I apologize for having to listen to it. On your far side is your clerk stenographer, Julie Kilbride, and I'm John Hogan, and I will be your moderator this evening. This night is not starting well. I'd be amiss if I didn't mention our town administrator, Michael Ward, as well. Thank you, Michael. Finance Committee members over in the far corner, Chairman Jim Tumalo, Attorney William McGrail, Barry Whitney, Edward Powers, Bob Latini, and Ellen O'Toole. I'd like to have a moment of silence at this point for a few former town employees who are unfortunately in the last 12 months are no longer with us. Former school committee member, town solicitor, and Associate Justice of the Massachusetts Supreme Court, James Donahue. Former Economic and Community Development Director, Owen McNamara. Member of the Council on Aging, Father Thomas Walsh. Member of the Housing Authority, John Gallagher. Two teachers passed away, John Philbin and Barbara O'Toole. And your gas and plumbing inspector, Fred Delory. If we could have a moment for them at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to take from free cash the sum of $10,000, said sum to be placed in an interest-bearing account to be dedicated to the partial funding of a sesquicentennial celebration for the town of Clinton in the year 2000. This carries Finance Committee approval.
Mr. Moderator, I second the motion.
Article number 13, dealing with sum of $10,000 to be placed in an interest-bearing account dedicated to the partial funding for a celebration for the town of Clinton for the year 2000. You're not going to catch me on that one. Questions, comments, or discussion under Article 13? There being none, all in favor signify by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The celebration will be held. Article 14.
These first three, where's the money come from? Raise and appropriate or take?
Jimmy has the script.
He didn't read it.
Well, he didn't because he didn't have the script. Mike wasn't up here yet. I think they were all for cash.
I just want to know whether.
Yeah, I'm sure they were free cash.
Okay, thanks.
Should have said something. Should have said something. I didn't have it on here. He had the copy.
If I said something, you didn't have.
Section 108 of the Massachusetts General Laws as amended. Said salaries and compensation to be effective from July 1st, 1997 to June 30th, 1998, and to raise and appropriate the sum of money therefore. This carries the approval of the Finance Committee.
Mr. Moderator, I second the motion.
Article number 4 have been made and seconded, fixing the salaries and compensation for all elected officials of the town of Clinton. Annual article, questions, comments, or discussion? Sir. Okay. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? Sir.
Richard J. McIntyre, Orange Street. I just want to know how we're going to fix the salaries. Is there certain percentage raises and stuff like that, or?
I'm sorry.
Says you're gonna fix the salaries.
Speak up a little louder.
Says you're gonna fix the salaries.
Yes, this would set the salaries.
How do you set them? That's what I wanna know. I mean, are we gonna give somebody that works 6 hours a week, $10,000 or what?
The figures are in the budget, which is in the back of the warrant article that you have, that the people would be getting if you would choose to approve that later with the dollar amount. If you look at the back of your warrant, under, pick any elected official that you want. You start with mine if you like.
Okay.
Moderator, $100, you'll see it in there. Okay?
Wow. Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
All right?
You can add hours too.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion? Sir?
Tom Vetras, Bear Path. I move to amend the salary of the treasurer from $34,823 to $37,823, which would change the treasurer's subtotal from $105,648 to $108,648. The current treasurer has been in the position for 7 years.
Tom,
Yes.
What we're going to do, what I'm going to ask you to do is redo this under Article, the budget. When we get into the budget itself,
Okay. You're going to go through each line?
yeah, we're going to
You
go
are.
through each line item then. That
Okay.
would really be the place to do that. This sets the figure, but the dollar amounts to be placed in it would be set under the budget itself, and I'd be happy to
So
recognize you then.
you're going to go through each line item?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, each department.
Feel that we need a full-time position right now. We currently are the only department in the town hall that does not have a full-time person at this time. And I'd like to make this a full-time position at this time to just at least keep up with the work. The current person does a very good job, and the current staff does a very good job, but they're all, there's always more to do, and they always put something on the back burner. So we'd like to at least keep them current and trying to provide as much service for the town as possible.
Okay, if I could, just at this time, Debbie, just, there is a problem here in the sense that we've got a personnel board now, okay? Now, with an appointed position, okay, you can change that figure from what's in the warrant. If they want to put $1 million in it, you can do it. The problem is, I don't think you can spend it without going through the personnel board. Okay? So I don't think you can actually go through, my understanding is with the personnel board that you can't change the position without having their approval first, or having their approval.
We sent when we did the budget, we sent to ask the personnel board also to adjust the hours for 10 hours more.
Okay,
And I never received anything back from them. I don't even know if there is a personnel board at this time.
okay. Mr. Dillon. We'll try and get
We
the
tried
bottom
to
of
go
this.
through all the proper channels
I
before
understand.
this.
I understand.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, the request by the chairman of the Board of Health is completely out of order. She has to go through the Personnel Board in October and submit a job of what she would like to do in October. It's reviewed by the Personnel Board. We reviewed their budget. It was agreed that we have a person in the town hall, much like a supernumerary, that a request for 4 or 5 hours for filing or phone answering by the selectmen or any office that's needed, this girl is being paid $10,000 a year to do this. If a request is made to the administrative assistant, that was agreed to be taken care of. 3 years ago, the Finance Committee voted to increase the lady's hours to 20 hours. Fine, that's all we want. Then they had a filing problem. We certainly tried to take care of the filing problem. Now, when they want to change a job description, they have to write it up, send it to the Personnel Board, and we go through all this. In October, November, January, it's been 6 months. We reviewed their budget. We told them where we stood. If they want more hours to do filing, they certainly can ask the administrator. The budget, this request is completely out of order. She's got to go through the proper channels. If you want to vote the money, she can't spend it. And I hope the moderator explains that to you. You can raise it to 30,000, but all she's going to get is 25 hours or 20 hours at her wage, and that's as far as she can go, unless they go through the proper procedure, like everyone else in this town does.
Okay, do you understand what, I guess the bottom line here is, because of the personnel board, is, and I'm going to allow the vote. If you want the vote, I'm going to allow the vote to occur. But I want the Board of Health to understand that if the town meeting agrees to put the money in the budget, it can do, that can be done. But it really can't be spent, or the job description cannot change until the personnel board has dealt with it.
Okay, can you tell me, is there a personnel board currently at this time?
I know Mr. Bailey is on it, I know.
Yeah, but is there a current personnel board? Can anybody answer me that?
Okay? Let me see if I can get myself out of this one. There are presently 2 members of the Personnel Board, to answer your question, and they are recruiting new members, by the way, if anyone is available.
Okay, so now, like I said, we tried to go through the proper channels in the very beginning. I did put in a request to the Personnel Board, and apparently the Personnel Board never met. So, I'm stuck here.
I hear you.
And it's not to file, this is to run the department, to make the department run more smoothly.
The argument's not how, I'm not questioning any of that. All I'm saying is it's got to be done through proper channels,
Okay.
because of the personnel board that was created by this town back, 2 years ago.
Okay.
I still think you're stuck, though. I really do, in terms of...
All right, if the town appropriates this money now, and they appoint a personnel board, and there's enough people to meet within the next few months before the new fiscal year, can that be implemented? Can the 5,700?
If the personnel board agrees to change your position, and the money is already in the budget, you could spend it.
All right,
But you can't spend it
right, until
without
then.
that approval.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. So we have before us a motion to increase the health inspector's salary position from $14,485 to $20,280. Any further questions, comments, or discussion on the amendment? Sir.
My name is Mark Pinowski. I live at 7 Fitch Road in Clinton, and I'd like to know what the qualification of the health inspector is, a registered sanitarian, to accept this amount of money.
Excuse me, a registered what?
A registered sanitarian with the state of Massachusetts.
Okay, so you're looking for the qualifications of
The
the
qualifications that he has to accept that amount of money.
position. Okay, could someone from the Board of Health just explain the qualifications for the position?
The health inspector does the inspections in the town. We don't have, currently, she was a registered nurse. She has a college degree. We don't require that position to be a registered sanitarian.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment to Article 5, specifically the health inspector salary account? There being none, we'll vote at this time. All in favor of the increase in the assessor's salary, indicate by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. Once again, folks, all in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Once more. Nice and high. One hand only, though. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The motion is passed. Is there any further amendments or questions or comments about any part of the budget before you as amended? Okay, now I have to give you the bad news. This budget has now been amended by $11,550 over what the Finance Committee recommended to you. There is a bylaw in the town of Clinton that any article that is more than $10,000 of what the Finance Committee approves has to be taken by ballot. So the vote on the entire budget must be taken by ballot because we are now at $11,550 over what they recommended. Anything over 10,000 puts us in a ballot situation. Anything over 10,000 more than that. Okay? Could you get the ladies out back? We need ballots too, Nick. Where are the ballots? Stanley, could you get the ballots over in the box there? If you could just sit tight for a minute or two, we'll get this set up and then we'll get started. What color you want? Blue? Oh. Ladies, if we get the ladies in the back to come forward, please. Ladies in the back, come forward. Okay, there's a motion to move Article 12 to the end of the warrant to be voted on last. Explanation being, Article 12 has been disapproved by your Finance Committee. It is an expenditure of more than $10,000. It is coming from the stabilization fund. What all that means is it is a ballot vote and it requires a 2/3 vote by ballot for passage. And the feeling is that if we're going to do another secret ballot vote, we should probably do it at the end of the night and not take up time with doing that now. Then you can vote and go home and not be tied up waiting for the vote to be counted. I will assure you, if you pass this, that once we begin discussion on Article 12 at the end of the ballot, I will not take reconsideration on any article. Because I think that's only fair, because I'm telling you, you can go home. I don't think it's fair to let reconsideration be occurring then when there's only a few people here. So the motion is to move Article 12 to make it in effect, take effect after Article 23. All in favor of moving the article indicate by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. Okay, the article is moved. We will now move to Article 13. And all in favor signify by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? The article is passed unanimously. Article 19.
Mr. Moderator, Article 19. I move that the town vote to amend the Town of Clinton administrative bylaws in Article 2, Section 2, by deleting the last sentence.
Mr. Moderator, I second the motion.
Article number 19 have been made and seconded. What this deals with, ladies and gentlemen, is the Finance Committee. And if you've followed any newspapers lately, you've noticed that the Finance Committee has been written up in terms of newspaper articles of late. Now, the sentence that this would remove from the bylaws is just one sentence, and I'll read it to you. The members of the Finance Committee shall be so chosen that at no time shall a majority thereof be of the same political party. I'll read it once again. This sentence would be removed if you approve the bylaw change. The members of the Finance Committee shall be so chosen that at no time shall a majority thereof be of the same political party. Now, I want to assure everybody, a couple of things here. First of all, despite what you may have read in the paper, the Finance Committee has been and is now in full compliance with the bylaw of 1914, despite anything that you saw in the paper. And that has been upheld by a legal opinion. However, during the information that was being passed around when this was in the paper, it was brought to the attention of the selectmen, more or less, talked about it themselves, and it was determined that the Finance Committee is the only elected or appointed board in the town of Clinton left that is still considered partisan. Every other elected or appointed board in the town of Clinton is nonpartisan, as voted on, I believe, back in the 70s. I don't remember it, but that's my understanding from those who have told me. Since the 70s, it's been nonpartisan. So the Finance Committee, as of right now, is still considered partisan, and that you can't have a majority of any one political party on the Finance Committee, which would constitute with 6 members. You can't have 4 Democrats, you can't have 4 Republicans, you can't have 4 Lyndon LaRouche parties or anything that else you might want to think of, okay? So this would subtract that sentence, and it would just be, appointments would be made on qualifications only. The political party would not matter. And that's the reason it's on your warrant. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article?
Mark Furneaux, 395 Chestnut. I apologize because I'm going to be repetitious, but I'm having trouble gauging the vote here. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Either you have a fairly pure form of democracy, where in theory every single registered voter can come in and vote on where your dog goes to the bathroom, or we go to a town manager and have the town run professionally. You're opening yourselves up to danger when you lower the quorum. 100 Martians move in and register to vote. Think about it. There's the Martian vote. There's the Martian block. Everybody else doesn't come because their neighbor will be there, so they don't have to. All 100 Martians come. What the Martians want, the Martians get. I think if we're going to have a representative government, then we should have a representative government. Thank you.
I'm not worried about Martians coming to vote on what my dog's going to do on my neighbor's lawn. What I'm worried about is there's 7,000 registered voters in this town, and time again, you get 250, 400 people that show up that care enough to run this town. If you don't have, by passing this article, you're not taking away anyone's right to participate in democracy. You're actually requiring people to be more responsible and show up here. If you're worried about 100 people or 50 people putting something through that the town doesn't want, then you should be here. And you shouldn't be, and people shouldn't be sent home because 7,000 other people don't care enough to come here. Thank you.
Sir.
Mr. Moderator, Donald Lowe, 17 Hughes Street. As someone who was an elected official for 6 years, I could observe firsthand the frustration trying to come out night after night, trying to get a budget passed, trying to do the right thing for the town. Nobody's right will be taken away from what you have now if people simply come out and vote. The key here is we've always talked about how do we get more people involved. Well, when you have young couples that have children, that have to schedule a babysitter, not knowing whether or not they're going to have to come home an hour later and still pay the babysitter. We talk about trying to get more people involved. If people can hang their hat on one night, they can come out. You'll get more people here than you ever had before, and you'll have democracy at its finest. Thank you.
Is there any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 21? Sir. Joe.
Paul McGovern, 29 Harris Street. But if we're going to have more people coming out, then the hell with dropping it and leaving it where it is.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion? Sir.
Mr. Moderator, the reason why we have one is we didn't want the town run by a half a dozen people. That's why they initially put in a quorum. I think you ought to keep that, the 250, and try it for a while. You're not even wet on behind the ears still, for crying out loud. Keep it where it is.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, we'll take a vote at this time. If you vote yes, you'll be voting to lower the quorum. If you vote no, you'll be voting to leave the quorum where it is. All in favor of Article 21 indicate by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Okay, Article 21 is defeated. Article 22. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 212 people in the hall. What I'd like to do now is we are live on Channel 30, as most of you are aware, and I'm going to make an appeal to the couch sitters and the people in every calm down. We don't need that many more people that I don't think we can't achieve this. If everyone can sit tight and we do have the benefit of Channel 30 to get more people down here. So I would appeal to all of you at home right now to, it's a nice evening. We've got some very important articles to deal with, including especially the budget for the next fiscal year. I would encourage you to come down right now, if you would, and we will take a, we will recount the quorum at 8 o'clock, which is 13 minutes from now. We'll take another count at that time. Okay. Thank you all.
My name is Lorraine Rosenthal. I live at 117 Water Street in Clinton. And Mr. Moderator, I move to amend Article 4 on page 3F, under line item heading Selectman Administrative Assistant, to change from $37,100 to read $25,000, and to change the subtotal to read $76,860, and to move the $12,100 to the line item Finance Committee Reserve to read $47,100, and Finance Committee subtotal to read $49,100.
On page 3F, this amendment would change the Selectman's Administrative Assistant from a far right-hand column salary of $37,100 to $25,000, and would change the subtotal to read $76,860, and would then move the $12,100 difference to the Finance Committee Reserve. Is there a second on that motion? Motion having been made and seconded. What this would do would reduce the salary of the Selectman's Administrative Assistant from $37,100 to $25,000. Questions, comments, or discussion under the amendment to the motion? Mr. King. Sir.
Edward Cade, 1 Coolidge Place. Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, every year at town meeting it's become an annual thing to get rid of Mr. Montori. I don't agree with him on everything. I can pick him out on a number of issues, but he has done you good service. And you look at the page in this town report for other people. He's certainly worth the money he's getting. This motion should be defeated. If you don't like Mr. Montori, why don't you go to your Board of Selectmen and have him replace him instead of cutting wages? It's a bad practice to start cutting wages because it'll end up even going further. And take a look at this town. I'm asking you to defeat this. It's not in the best interest of the town of Clinton. Thank you.
Mr. Ward.
Mr. Moderator, I would like to rise to ask that this amendment be defeated also. As was stated, this is becoming an annual event, and I can't understand why. I think that the position, but more than the position, Richie Montori has earned every penny of that salary that we've given him. And I think that he's deserved of that salary. He's done a tremendous job for the town. And as was stated also, if there's problems, or I hope not, but if there's personality problems, that should be addressed with the Board of Selectmen. He is an administrative assistant to the Board of Selectmen. He gets his duties and jurisdiction from this board. So if there's a problem with him or his performance, that we as the Board of Selectmen have to take that responsibility. And I think it is absurd that we go on with this, and I hope that this doesn't take up too much of our time tonight, and that he should keep the salary what he has and not to be playing around with this budget. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Christine Flaherty, 410 Water Street. I think it's going to be an annual thing to see me up here too, because the man earns his salary. It's probably one of the hardest jobs you'll ever get. And he works hard for the town, and as one of the town employees, I can say he's a big help to me to know that there's somebody across the street all the time that you can call and ask assistance or advice. But cutting his salary to $25,000 is ridiculous. I think it's time to stop this. Just like you said, get on with the meeting and leave Rich alone.
Sir.
Mr. Moderator, it is an annual thing and it's getting sickening. I would like at this time, Mr. Moderator, to ask the person that made this amendment to come up and explain why it was presented, under what premise, and why other avenues weren't taken. I'm tired of it.
Okay, I can't, in all fairness, you know, this article, this amendment, proposed amendment is under discussion. If the individual would like to come up, she's welcome to, and she would not, that's her privilege, really. I can't force anyone to speak. Is there any further discussion on this proposed amendment to the town budget?
Mr. Moderator?
Sir, Mr. McNamara.
I respectfully submit to you people in attendance here to defeat this amendment. Mr. Montori is worth every penny of the $37,500. Thank you.
Unless there's any further discussion on this proposed amendment change, we'll take a vote on it now. There being none. If you vote yes, you are voting to cut the salary of the selectman's assistant from $37,100 to $25,000. If you vote no, you will be voting to retain the salary at the present level of $37,100. Anyone not clear on how they would like to vote? Okay. All those in favor of the proposed amendment to cut the salary, please indicate by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. Okay, that is defeated.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, I had hoped to open Pandora's box to a certain degree for your benefit. And after hearing the discussion, sooner or later the state is going to force recycling down your throat. They're going to do it across this Commonwealth. From what I have just heard from the floor of this hall, my recommendation for all it's worth is keep the money where it is. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion under this proposed amendment? There being none, we will take a vote at this time. If you vote yes, you are voting to transfer the money from the Selectmen Department to the Board of Health Department. If you vote no, you are voting to retain it as it is written in your town report. All those in favor of the proposed transfer indicate by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The motion is defeated. No, it wasn't. It was not even close, really. It was not even close. We will now go to the budget again. Overall, ma'am, why don't you come forward, please? State your name and address.
Defense miscellaneous expense. Would, under FY95 budget requests, change from $2,565, change it to read $2,000. And under Finance Committee recommended FY95, change from $1,000, change it to read $2,000. Under line number 24, Civil Defense new equipment, under Finance Committee recommended...
Whoa. Would you give me that again, please? Start from the first one. You're changing a budget request? The budget you live with is in the far right-hand column. You understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me that again, then, please.
Well, I was just... Okay, under the request, we originally requested $2,565.
All right, let me just start with that. Don't change that.
Okay.
That doesn't going to do you any good.
Okay, so
You want to sit down and come back?
No, I got it.
I'll come back to you if you want to take time to.
On line 24, civil defense new equipment then. Under the Finance Committee recommended FY95, change from 1,000, change it to read 2,000.
In the far right-hand column.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then line 25, which is a subtotal line, under FY Finance Committee recommended budget, would change it from 1,000 to a total of $4,565.
No. Roger, you know, I'm going to have to ask you to sit down and get it together, all right?
Okay,
Now, you're confusing the two motions.
You're reversing.
Yeah, you reversed. I'll come back to you, but you're very confused right now with the thing, all right? All right, can we move on? Dog officer.
John Gorman, Fuller Field. I'd just like to say one thing. There is an article for $10,000 on the town warrant, and I would like to ask
All questions come here, Mr.
the administrative assistant.
All questions come here.
Yeah. If he would kindly.
John, all questions come here,
Okay.
sir.
May I ask him?
You ask me.
Okay. May I ask him a question?
No, you asked me the question.
Oh, okay. He came down to the field with the building inspector, and he looked at the bathrooms. And I believe, and all he has to say is yes or no. I don't want to get him in the middle with anything. And they both said, or the building inspector said, $10,000 wouldn't even touch these bathrooms, wouldn't even touch them as far as repairs. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I'm James Gibbons, 1100 Ridgefield Circle. Backing up the section previous to the ambulance account.
Okay.
More for a point of information, I'd like to know if we could be advised on debt retirement principle. There's an excess of $1 million payment budgeted for this fiscal year, and I wondered if we could have some details as to what debt retirement to that amount is occurring.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to handle that? Because I know I don't. Whose budget would that be? That's the... retirement? Debt retirement principal. I could sing and dance, but I don't think you want me to do that. So I don't think you're going to get your answer. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you unless, Mr. Coyne, would you like to...
Phyllis, do you want to speak on that? Well, he said debt retirement. Is that what you said, Jimmy? Where's Jimmy Gibbons? Mr. Gibbons. Where is he?
What? All right.
Jimmy, what was that on? Debt retirement? Yeah.
My name is Ed Sheridan. I live at 118 Chase Street. And I would request an amendment. It seems we've been neglected, the Personnel Board. It was my impression we had a line item approved for $2,500. It's nowhere to be found in the book. It was for printing that we need to do to get everything in order and to get ready for the implementation of the bylaws.
Okay. So your request is to?
Right now we have no funds, so I'm requesting
You not only have no funds, you have no line item at the moment.
We have no line item. We are the proverbial duck in a desert, and I would like to
Would you like to add one, Mr. Sheridan, or? Are you making a motion, or?
I'll make a motion that we include a line item for $2,500 for the Personnel Board.
Where would you want to put that line item?
Well,
In the budgets.
No, this can be done. I know it seems kind of.
probably at the last entry on the Finance Committee's thing here. I don't know where else it would go. We haven't reserved space to this point.
I'm sorry. Where did you want to put this?
We haven't reserved space, so if you could fit us in during wherever you'd like.
Wherever I would like. Mr. Bailey, please.
My friend Edward,
Yes, Willis.
I think the Board of Selectmen would agree that we did talk about this at one of the meetings, that they needed some funds. We never got a formal request, Edward, but boy, we'd like to help you out. I would like to make a motion, if the people here will vote on it, in the last page of...
Before, are you making a motion on the Personnel Board?
Make a motion that we add...
Would you withdraw your motion?
I'd be happy to withdraw my motion, but
Okay.
25.
All right, Mr. Sheridan's motion is withdrawn.
Okay.
We'll now go to Mr. Bailey.
All right. On page 10F, I'd like to make a motion that we place a personnel budget number, requested number of $2,500 for the Personnel Board, an approved number from the Finance Committee of $2,500.
Okay. Now we're on page 10F.
10F, under unclassified.
Under unclassified.
Yeah.
How appropriate.
We're going to write the word Personnel Board.
Thank
or
you.
Personnel Department.
Okay, so this will be a new line item in your budget under page 10F.
Yeah.
The line item underneath unclassified, it will say Personnel Board.
Miscellaneous expense.
Personnel Board miscellaneous expense. Thank you. That item will be for
Ed Sheridan's campaign.
$2,500. Is there a second? Is there a second to that motion, sir? A second to that motion. All right, we're now under discussion under the proposed amendment to the budget of $2,500 for a new line item for the Personnel Board. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if anyone owns a Mercury Cougar 138 IGT, that's your horn. Mercury Cougar, license 138 IGT. Still under the budget.
Jack Burke from 64 Grove. You're going to borrow 1.9 over how long of a period of time?
20 years, sir.
At what rate of interest?
I believe 6%.
That's what, $60,000 a year?
I don't have, excuse me, the exact figures on me.
$120,000 a year.
Well,
That's four.
I know we do have a breakdown of figures. I don't have them right in front of me, sir.
Jimmy, you were the town treasurer. I think it's $120,000 a year. That's 4 firemen or 4 policemen, roughly, or better. Why go all the way? Why not fix the roof? Take the skylights the heck out of there. Put plastic domes up. Fix what has to be done right now. Why go all the way? Why not get the gargoyles fixed also?
Still under discussion under Article 5. Is there any further discussion at this time?
If I may, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, this building doesn't belong to the subcommittee or the Board of Selectmen. It's your building. You can do whatever you choose to do with it. But it's $1.9 million now, or it's $3 million in 3 or 4 years. Something's got to be done. Nothing's been done since 1909 other than minor repairs on this town hall. It's a wise investment. I think it's fair to say that this building is worth estimated value over $10 million. We could never replace it. Why not put the money to good use and repair it now?
Robert Winship, 58 Highland Street. The last two annual town meetings, I've come up to this microphone, the same one, the same spot, and I asked a question. As a matter of fact, I made an amendment to an article which would fund the raise for the fire department, the police department, I guess we had a school department. I requested that copies of those union contracts be placed in the office of the town clerk in Clinton, Massachusetts, in this town hall, so that anyone who had any doubts about what was in the contract would be able to go in and see them. Now, I've been trying for 2 years to look at a contract which has been approved by the voters of this town with the union employees, and I've been unsuccessful so far. But I read in the paper that there was a miscalculation in the first year of the contract that has been reached with the firefighters union. Miscalculation by the sum of something like $12,000. Well, I decided I better look into this and find out where it's going. So I'd like to know where the other $12,000, is it going into the second year of the contract, or is it going into the third year, or does it look bad that we've been asked on the warrant to fund $38,000 for this union and only $28,000 for the police union? I'd like to know where the miscalculation occurred, because I've never seen a copy of a contract since in the police or fire department since I've been a resident of this town, which is more than half a century. Thank you.
Mr. O'Loughlin.
My name is Stan Starr on Hughes Street in Clinton. Just as a suggestion, in a spirit of compromise, if that's the word to use, I totally agree with Attorney McIntyre, who did an extensive amount of research into this program. It's needed. We have precedent in our town with our ambulance enterprise fund. It placed costs and incurs expenses where they belong. I firmly believe it's needed for all the reasons that have been mentioned already. I further agree, having served previously on the Finance Committee, that it creates a huge situational mess here if it's approved as is. If there's some way in a relatively short period of time, a la 3 or 4 minutes, that there could be determination of how much money might be available, perhaps a funding sum of $100,000, $150,000 the first year might be a doable compromise to this and get it off center. It seems both sides are agreeing the difficulty is the monies, at least for the first year. Get it going with something. It's an ice cream cone without ice cream. Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion under Article 16? Sir. Okay, is there anyone who wants to handle that? Mr. Jagonski?
Mr. Jagonski, what?
Oh, I thought you wanted this.
Oh, no.
I
Well,
don't
I
think
mean,
Go ahead.
Mr. Moderator, I'll just say that, first of all, I don't feel that I'm qualified to make an answer to that question where I don't have a legal degree, and I certainly am not qualified, but if the town moderator would like to look into it, and, you know, I'm sure he would give an adequate answer at some other time, but...
No.
Excuse me?
Hey, well, that's why we have hands, ma'am. We have hands, and we have a microphone. There'll be no more calling out, please.
Mr. Moderator, I'm just making an attempt to answer the gentleman's question. I'm not qualified, so all I'm saying to you is I'm not qualified to answer it. I'm not an attorney.
Thank you. Mr. Conley.
If somebody would please repeat the question, I'd be willing to try to answer it.
I believe the question, Mr. Conley, was, is there a law that requires the sewer charges and sewer revenues to be put into some fund other than the general account? Is that correct?
I
Why
would
don't you come up
say
and
yes.
rephrase it then?
My first impression would be yes. When you collect a fund for a specific use, you should commit it to that use.
All right, Mr. Carbone. go ahead.
Then, actually, that wasn't my question, but he answered my question. Then the second part to that question would be then to fund other departments through general fund with this fee that's very specific, that should be used for infrastructure and so on, sewage system, it would be illegal.
It's the same thing, because you're putting into a general fund. It's
Then it
obviously
would
not
be
going for
illegal.
what you're saying.
No, the chairman of the board said that we have to worry about losing positions in school department and this and that and so on, if it's being used for that, and it is specific with Massachusetts general law, that it has to go as a sewage fee to the sewer system and infrastructure, then it would be illegal for what we're doing and not setting up some kind of an enterprise, which I guess almost makes an enterprise thing a moot point because it's already in place.
Okay. Yes.
I move to reconsider Article 16.
Motion's been made and seconded to reconsider Article 16. Mr. Jaconski, do you want to explain that, or?
Yes, lady.
No, we've already passed the amendment, sir. Your amendment had already passed previously. So that was the article itself. Okay. We're now...
I voted in the negative, that's right.
Right. Please listen to the explanation for I'm going to allow it because of the nature of it. I think the motion to reconsider deserves an explanation because I think there's something that wants to be done here that's not being done. So, Mr. Jaconski. Questions, comments, or discussion? There being none, all in favor, please signify. Green cards. Don't forget your green cards. Thank you.
And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed.
Article number 6 have been made and seconded. We'll put on the warrant by courtesy of your Board of Assessors to exempt from taxation the personal property of research and development corporations and limited liability tax companies engaged in specific research and development. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Sir.
Good evening. Dave Baird, 15 Dyke Drive, Chairman of the Board of Assessors. Article 6 is a local option that will allow, hopefully, for some economic stimulus that will allow us to revitalize some of the old mill buildings in town. This will work in conjunction with or independently with Article 13, which is the overlay district, which you'll hear about later. I think that the buildings that we have here don't lend themselves to modern manufacturing, but they do lend themselves to research. And I think that this might be an option for us to entice some of those companies to come to town. As far as exempting from taxation, that's a scary word because everyone thinks that it's going to cost them something. Currently, there are no businesses or entities in the town of Clinton that would benefit from this article if you pass it. And before it can be granted by the Board of Assessors, the company must file annually with the Department of Revenue for status as an R&D company. So they have to prove themselves that they're actually doing development and research for the purposes of that. So they can't be in the business of saying they're developing something and actually just manufacturing. They actually have to prove that they're doing that. So I think that there's a safety net in there from the DOR, and we can be sure that they're actually performing that function. I don't foresee any immediate effect that we see, impacting the taxes in any way. And even if it were to impact the taxes, it would not affect their real estate. It would only affect the corporate or LLC assets that would be subject to personal property, which are very minimal. I think that this is a good thing for the town, and I encourage you to vote for it. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 6? There being none, take a vote at this time. Majority vote required. All those in favor of Article 6, please indicate now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. So the first one here is 285 West Boylston Street up past Clinton High School. And then the other ones, was the former Article 9 is the former Rock Pesto site, 172 Sterling Street. Article 10 would be 89 Brook Street. Article 11 would be 1 to 55 Green Street. And Article 12 would be 460 to 530R Main Street. So when we're talking discussion, basically, this is the same for all the articles. Questions, comments, or discussion under Article 8 that we are under. Sir.
What is that?
Okay, we've had a quorum, request for quorum. Excuse me? Sir, I want to make clear to you, that any votes we have, sir, any votes that we have taken previous to the now stand. You understand that? Okay. Can I have my tellers up front, please?
Gloria Parkinson, 90 Haskell. Really quick, I think this is all great. But I just wanted to ask Phil, is it a question, can I ask him, can I ask Phil?
Well, ask me and we'll send it out.
Mr.
How's
Moderator,
that?
would you ask Mr. Duffy, of the chair of the planning department, on the one that's listed as 3842, which says special permitted uses, would you ask Mr. Duffy that as I understood it, and again, he's just stated it, but to make sure this is what we're really talking about, I went to a planning meeting when this was discussed a couple of months ago, and Mr. Duffy pointed out at that time that each time there is this special permitted uses. The reason for this question, to have it confirmed, is my only trepidation, and Mr. Duffy dealt with that, and I want to make sure that he can confirm it tonight through you, Mr. Moderator, is that should a company come and say we want to do animal research as part of our research and development, for example, primate research, that we have a right to object to that on a permit-by-permit basis. The reason for my question is that I think, although this is wonderful and I think we should vote for it and do everything we all agree with, but if we do things like detailed animal research, we will have the PETA people down upon us, smearing buckets of paint all over town, which would not be a great image for the town. So my purpose is to say, is that right, through you, Mr. Moderator, that we can object to? Yeah, okay.
Okay, Mr.
Right.
Duffy.
Right. Do I leave now?
Thank you, you did fine.
Again, Phil
Further
Duffy.
questions, comments, or discussion of the article? I believe Mr. Hart would like to speak, although he hasn't been recognized, but he'd like to speak.
Thank you, Mr.
You
Moderator.
would raise your hand, Chief, once in a while. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, teacher.
Living on 2060 Front Street, Clinton, Mass. I was a coach with the Clinton Minor League for 30 years. And to answer that lady's question on, how she doesn't want to spend no more money, I'd like to ask her, or just tell her, how much money the town would save by those kids down there playing baseball instead of down on High Street drinking and drugging. How much would it save the police department by not having to make all those arrests? And another thing is, the town of Clinton has all the kids in the world who love to play baseball and no land for them to play on. Berlin, Lancaster, Sterling, no kids. All the land in the world for them to play on. Please approve this question. We need the land. We need the baseball field. Please approve this.
Sir. Your stage members for tonight's meeting are, from right to left, Selectman Dino Sapantis, Selectman Jerry Buffton, Selectman Martin McNamara, Selectman Mark Iacobucci, Chairperson of the Board, Mary Rose Dickhouse, Town Administrator Michael Ward, and Town Solicitor Dennis Sargent. And our secretary today is Julie Kilbride, who's hiding behind the stage here. All questions must be recognized by the moderator before speaking. All questions, comments, or discussion should be directed to the moderator. I will redirect that question to the correct person for a response. Please state your name and address before speaking. No personalities in your remarks, and try to keep your comments to the article under discussion. All proposed amendments should be presented to me in writing. For those who wish to speak, due to the large number of people in this hall, debate will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Each speaker is allowed to speak twice per article and twice per amendment. Any further speaking on their part will be limited to answering questions only. At this point, we can begin with Article 1.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? The famous question. Thank you. My name is Stan Starr. I live on Hugh Street. I'm a parent of 2 students in the Clinton Elementary Schools, one of whom is in the nomadic 3rd grade, currently residing up on 3 different locations, and we've heard the speakers before. It's very, very true. Christopher also received occupational services that he needed. He had them on the stage of an auditorium while I was a gym class going off to the side. A lot of kids in our schools need services for early intervention. They get them in noisy corridor rooms. They get them in cramped coat rooms. It's not fair to the kids. They deserve better. Our teachers are motivated. We're very fortunate. We're a close-knit community. We always have been. We always will be. Give them an environment to work with. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to our kids. Liability issues. I thought about this all last night. Parkhurst School. I don't know how many people are familiar with Parkhurst School, the last remaining neighborhood school we have in here. But if you want to see some remnants of the past, take a walk on down. You got steep stairways, you got poor lighting, and horrible environment to work in. We're asking our teachers to physically assist kids who can't make it downstairs to restrooms. Can you imagine the liability this town would have if something happened on the way down to teacher or students? Don't want to hear about it. But we have insurance, don't worry. It's not the issue, folks. That building should be a museum, not a school. I didn't want to touch on the financials. My background is financials. I'll confess to being a member of this finance committee here for a fair number of years for this town. These people voted in favor, 4-1, of this school. I think that's a lot of credibility. I think everyone should listen to what these people have to say. They're holding our purse strings. They know the background. I respect their opinion. I think you should also. The financials, I heard mentioned here earlier, it's not going to cost us zero if we do nothing today. Look at the reports you have in your hand. It's more expensive, at the very least, half as expensive for doing nothing. It's going to cost us money if we don't approve this school. It's plain and simple. It's just going to happen. Believe it. Mr. Sheridan had made comments on this already. Look at the numbers. Unless you think they're outright lies, you're going to pay one way or another. And in 5 years, what are you going to have? You're going to have remnants of some modular classrooms. That's what you're going to have. You're not going to have a school building to take care of our kids. Is there going to be a decrease in a few years of building costs? What do you think? When's the last time our consumer price index reduced? Try 50 years ago, folks. 50 years ago. It's simply not going to happen. As he winds down here. We've got excellent educators in this, and we've got excellent people. And everything that's said about the seniors is absolutely true. We need to do something to help them. Judge Philbin had a great point. There are things we can do, and we should do. We should do them sooner, but we should also take care of our kids and approve this article. Thank you.
Sir. There's a motion on the floor to move the question, thereby ending debate. Is there a second to that motion? Moving the question requires a two-thirds vote. We will see how we do here. What you are voting on now is whether to end debate. You are not voting on the article. You are voting on whether to end debate. All in favor of ending debate indicate by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The motion... Where am I? Sir.
Make a motion in the first instance that the vote be taken by yes or no ballot.
Okay. Okay, that's not a debatable question, so we can't accept that motion. What you're voting on now, we have ended debate. What you're going to vote on now is the vote is scheduled to be taken by hand. This article is Finance Committee approved by a 3-to-1 vote of the Finance Committee, and you will be voting on this by hand. However, we have a motion on the floor now to change the vote from a hand vote to a ballot vote. A majority vote is required to make that change. First of all, is there a second to that motion? Second. Okay. Show of hands, please. All those in favor of voting by ballot, secret ballot, indicate by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? The motion is defeated. Could I have my tellers up front, please? The vote on Article 2, yes votes, 624. No votes, 301. The article needed a two-thirds vote for passage. The vote comes out .67459. Article 2 is passed. Motion is made to adjourn. Motion is made to adjourn. Thank you and good night. You were all given I'm going to check the color here, all given a pink card when you checked in. When you go to vote tonight, you should put that card in your hand. We'll be looking for the card in your hand to count the vote. You'll also notice there's some numbers on that. We will use that if there's a ballot vote, and at the moment none are scheduled, but if there's a ballot vote, you would come up forward, the number 1 would be checked with a punch, and you would receive your ballot. This will save the time-consuming effort and past ballots of re-registering. You've all registered already, and this system that the town clerk has initiated should save a lot of time. Article number 4 has been made and seconded. This is what many of you have all heard about, the $600,000 override, so to speak. Let me just make sure you understand what happens here. You are voting tonight on whether or not to appropriate the money. And if you vote no, then it's not appropriated and cannot be spent, regardless of what you do on next Monday. No matter how the vote comes out tonight, you will still vote on this on the ballot, townwide ballot next Monday night on the town election. The election on Monday of next week would put the money in the budget to be spent, but doesn't necessarily allow it to be spent. It's a town meeting that allows it to be spent by appropriation. Now that I've probably thoroughly confused you, does everybody understand the process? Anybody who does not understand the process? Okay. If you vote, regardless of how you vote tonight, you will still vote on the override question, and it will be a valid question next Monday. If you vote yes tonight, and it also passes next Monday on the ballot override, then the override has passed and it's done. If you vote no next Monday, it's finished. If you vote yes tonight and yes tonight and no at the override, on ballot override next Monday, the money would be appropriated but not available for expenditure because you didn't pass the override on next Monday. The more critical vote is next Monday, not tonight. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So I guess the bottom line, if you're in favor of the override, you vote yes tonight. If you're not in favor of the override, you vote no, and then see where it goes. I can see a lot of blank faces. Mr. Gibbons is going to try this. Hang on. Go ahead, Bob.
$366, and from streetlights, $1,282. I apologize for the length of this motion.
Second to the motion. Okay. All right, let me explain something here on this before we go to four. I know you don't have copies of this, so I'll try. And what this motion would attempt to do is to change the $600,000 to $300,000 for the appropriation in Article 4, and also take $87,767 from town departments listed in Article 3. Was under the miscellaneous. Is that what you were referring to? All right, here's the problem. We've already voted on Article 3. So in order to do this, we would have to reopen Article 3. Go ahead.
John Martin, 28 Orange Street. I'll invite your attention to Title 7, Chapter 34, Section 33B of Mass General Laws. Paragraph B, a town may, by majority vote at any meeting duly held, transfer any amount previously appropriated to any other use authorized by law. The town solicitor can verify that.
Yeah, can I? John, don't run away here. Let me see. We need to see that. Okay. We've passed Article 3, and you can't just change Article 3 per se like that. If you were going to amend Article 3, it would have been done when we were back on Article 3, and that wasn't done. You can't just take that's why we have town meetings, sir, and that's why we pass budgets with specific line items. So it's not really, I mean, what you're saying is to their discretion, but there's nothing this meeting could do that could make the Finance Committee or do any of this stuff. So we just can't direct them to do that. We don't have that authority. So I don't know.
You can motion to reopen the discussion on Article. You've got two motions here. First of all, you can motion to try to reopen Article 3 to make your transfer as the $87,000 under Article 3. Then you'd have to have a separate motion on Article 4 to reduce the amount of the contingent appropriation from $600,000 to $300,000. That's consistent. Reopening Article 3 is consistent with this statute. The town has already voted on that. Now you've got to reopen that article if you want to go back to that article and amend it. You can put that before the town right now. If that gets voted to reopen it, you can then make your proposal.
Wait a minute. Be careful how you word this, because we're in the middle of Article 4 now.
We've got to deal with Article 4.
Yeah, we've got to deal with 4. Then we'll allow you to reconsider Article 3. Okay, so
John, you should put your motion on for Article 4. We're talking Article 4 now. If you want a motion to reduce Article 4 from 600 to 300, you should make that motion, which should be and then seek a second.
Sir. Okay. Nib, can we raise that up a little bit? I sense that there's...
You speak right into this fight. You hear very well. You know, if you want to get up to the podium and not say nothing, we'll go ahead and do that. Speak right into the microphone. It works fine.
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. We will. Okay, the recommendation is when you're speaking, speak close into the microphone, and hopefully that will. Can you hear me now? Yeah, they still can't even hear me. Yeah, tweak it a little bit. Just if it squeaks, we'll put it back. I have a sense they can't hear me very well either.
Oh, yeah. They've agreed on the last 5 candidates we've hired. We've hired some great young men. Came into the department as EMTs, saving you thousands of dollars. Those last 5 EMTs are not politically connected in any way to anybody. They were on the list. They're the best candidates out of those that were eligible, and they were appointed. And I'm proud of every one of them. I'm sure they're going to serve the town of Clinton well for many years, unlike Mr. Fitch and Mr. Jensen.
Chief, no personalities, please. No personalities.
We go from the appointing and in charge of extinguishing and preventing fires in town, comes down to the purchase of apparatus. Under the strong chief, the fire chief purchases the apparatus, purchases and maintains. Under the weak chief, there's no mention of purchasing or maintaining. I take that back. I believe there's something on maintaining. But the purchasing of the equipment we need will be in the hands of the Board of Selectmen. I strongly urge you to defeat Article 1 in the best interest of you, the taxpayers.
Claire Agnetti, 131 South
Claire.
Main Street. I'm not.
Right into it. Speak right into the microphone.
Thank you. I'm nervous. Claire Agnetti, 131 South Main Street, Clinton.
Claire, speak closer to the microphone, Claire.
Claire Agnetti, 131 South Main Street, Clinton, Mass. Chairman of the Clinton Council on Aging. I represent the members of my council, Rose Pasquale, Catherine Murphy, James Gibbon, and Father Thomas Walsh. We have searched for almost 3 years for a new center. We have gone everywhere. We have no money. So the town is giving us a building. That's the beginning of our building. We aren't going to just leave 4 rooms for the people. If the place progresses, which we know it will, because it's going to be a work of the arts, you wait and see. It's going to be something the Clinton people will be very, very proud of. We can add on. I have searched, and the members of my council, we've gone other places and compared. In the state of Massachusetts, as far as we know, my facts may be a little wrong on this, it's only 2 towns in the Central Mass area that have a storefront senior center. We have outgrown ourselves. We have to go to the town hall for yoga. We have to go to the St. John's for our dances. We're spread all over. A lot of people say there's not a lot of people in the center. Well, the activities of the center are many, many. We do food, Meals on Wheels. We help with fuel assistance. We help the elderly. We have outreach workers. These things aren't seen in the little area we have. We work hard. We are a multi-service center working under very, very adverse conditions. And the people of Clinton, the elderly, deserve something to be very proud of. We're happy to take an old building and do it over. We're not asking millions of dollars to build a new school, or I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. But I I thank every one of you for your interest, and I thank my seniors for coming out tonight, because it's a chore for us. Thank you.
Would anybody like to follow that? Motion to move the question. Is there a second to that motion? There is. All in favor? Yeah.
Mary Chaffee, 83 Franklin Street, Clinton. I think the article, the way it's written, is just confusing to a lot of people. I think we thought we were coming down here to actually discuss the landfill, but it sounds like we're talking more of a ballot effect, which I think is really throwing off people that did want to talk against the landfill. So I'll talk against the landfill how I feel about it.
Wait a minute.
See, now
Before we
that's
get
it,
too
so we
far
can't
into this,
discuss
okay?
it.
I mean, I understand where you're coming
Yeah.
from, okay? The place to discuss your pros and cons on the landfill itself, as I understand it, would be a Board of Health meeting. This is a town meeting with a warrant, and the warrant is whether or not we would have a at this point, either a binding or a non-binding, I guess legally it won't be a binding referendum by ballot on the issue. I know where you're coming from, and I understand your concern, but the article really doesn't open it up that wide to get into a whole pros and cons of the dump. It's are we going to have a referendum by ballot on this issue? And if a large discussion is going to get into this, it really should be done at a Board of Health meeting. They have the granting authority to grant this license.
Well, we've done this, though. We've been to the selectmen meeting to the point that I was at one time probably not even known in the town, and now everybody knows me as being there every week. They thought I was taking Mary O'Brien's place. So this is what the idea was. I thought that we could come down in some way talk it, because the Board of Health is telling us, Mr. Carboni speaks and says, you know, that they have made, not the decision, but this has met all the criteria that's required in order for a landfill to go in. Well, that didn't give us as individuals any chance to answer it. I like to think that we elected them to represent us, but not to override us, is what they are doing at this point. So when will we get a chance?
Well, it won't be tonight, I can tell you
All right,
that.
if we vote yes, if we vote yes on this ballot right now to have it, the next time it would come up, is that be the time when we can?
If you vote yes on the amendment change and the article, okay, what will happen is that a town-wide referendum will be held to where you could vote yes, you were in favor of the dump or landfill, excuse me, I don't want to offend anybody. You are in favor of it or you are against it, okay? This town meeting does not have the authority to do anything, pro or con, on the issue of whether or not we are going to have this establishment or whatever. Okay? So what I'm saying is that the only thing this town meeting is authorized to do is to vote under the article some sort of a referendum question where the townspeople could have their say there as to whether or not they are in favor of the issue or against the issue. But keep in mind, it's non-binding on the granting authority, and the granting authority by state law is the Board of Health. So that's where we're at with this. And and I understand, I know what you're going to get in. I understand where you're coming from. But the place to get into that is really not here tonight, because we have no authority or ability to do anything one way or the other.
Well, they
It's
keep
at a
telling
Board
us
of
that
Health
no
meeting.
matter where we are, that we don't have any rights. All right, then if I ask the people here tonight to please vote yes to at least get it to the next step.
If you so like, yes.
All right, I'd like to please vote yes tonight. Put this on a ballot and let the people of Clinton decide, not let 3 individuals or 4 individuals. There's a bunch of you. Get together, because it's going to affect the whole town. It isn't going to affect just a few.
Is there any further discussion on the proposed article change, the amendment to Article 4? There being none, we will vote on the amendment right now. I will read it to you once again. Article number 5 having been made and seconded, I will spare you from reading the whole article over again. It's long. This article does deal with the transfer. Please keep in mind that word, because it's going to come into play at the next article much more deeply. This is a transfer of money that was appropriated at the annual meeting this past year. This article has been disapproved by your Finance Committee inasmuch as this requires a transfer of money and not an appropriation. This article will be a hand majority vote for passage. Questions, comments, or discussion under Article 5? Sir.
Mr. Moderator, Robert D. Winship, 58 Highland Street. Mr. Moderator, I rise for the purpose of offering an amendment to this article. The amendment would read as follows. Motion amending Article 5 by inserting the following words at the end of the first paragraph. Quote, and to require the Board of Selectmen to make available at least one copy of the current contract in force between the town and Local 151, Mass Coalition of Police, AFL-CIO, at the office of the town clerk for review by the public during normal business hours.
To Article 5 that would insert the following words at the end of the first paragraph, which is the end, and to require the Board of Selectmen to make available at least one copy of the contract currently in force between the town and Local 151 MCOP AFL-CIO at the office of the town clerk for review by the public during normal business hours. That amendment has been made. Is there a second to the amendment? Amendment has been made and seconded to that effect. Discussion on the amendment at this time. Sir.
Mr. Moderator, I believe that with the exception of the 5-member Board of Selectmen, the town administrator, a few other town officials, and the members of the local police union, I doubt if there are 10% of the people remaining in this hall right now who have ever seen a copy of the existing contract between the town and the police union. If anyone looks in their annual town report, at the end of the town report, there are several pages including every article existing in the contract between the school committee and the town of Clinton and its bargaining units. But nowhere is there any mention of the contract, what is involved, what are the benefits that they receive, how much they got for clothing allowance last year, how much they are getting totally in Quinn bill benefits this year, next year, 2 years ago, and you cannot get a copy of that contract unless you go traipsing around looking for someone who has the authority to hand it out. It is a public record, and therefore I require that it be included in the records of the town clerk, the existing contract, during normal business hours.
Thank you. Further discussion on the proposed amendment to Article 5? There being none, we will vote on the amendment to the article at this time, in the amendment only. All those who would like those words and to require the Board of Selectmen to make available at least one copy of the contract currently in force between the town and Local 151 MCOP AFL-CIO at the office of the town clerk for review by the public during normal business hours. All those in favor of that motion indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. That has passed.
Here, Robert Winship, 58 Highland Street. To be fair about it, I made a move to amend Article 5, dealing with the fire department contract, and I'm about to do the same thing to amend Article 6, to amend Article 6 by inserting the following words at the end of the first paragraph. Quote, and to require the Board of Selectmen to make available at least one copy of the contract currently in force between the town and Local 3189 International Association of Firefighters at the office of the town clerk for review by the public during normal business hours.
Article number 6, motion being made to amend by adding the words at the end of the first paragraph, and to require the Board of Selectmen to make available at least one copy of the contract currently enforced between the town and the local 3189 IAAF at the office of the town clerk for review by the public during normal business hours. Is there a second to that motion? That is seconded. Any questions, comments, or discussion on this proposed amendment, sir?
The only reason I mentioned it, as I stated before in Article 5, I doubt, with the exception of the sitting on the stage, those members of the firefighters local, and perhaps a few members of their families, I doubt if less than 10%, any more than 10% of the total number of voters now in the hall have ever seen a copy of the current contract existing between the town and the firefighters union. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Change to Article 6. There being none, we will vote at this time. All those in favor of the proposed amendment indicate by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The amendment is passed unanimously. Is there any questions, comments, or discussion on Article 6 as amended?
Zone land that is properly zoned industrial and should stay industrial zone land. This is nothing but spot zoning and will be beaten down in any court of law in Massachusetts. Thank you.
Still on the discussion under Article 14. Is there any further discussion, sir?
Mr. Moderator, this really is a joke, I think. You want to turn the former landfill that hasn't even been approved, the capping of it hasn't even been approved. You have 5 years after it's been approved before you can do anything at all with it. I'd really want to build a house up there. Smart move, R2.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 14? If there is none, we will take a vote at this time. Again, this is a zoning bylaw change requiring a 2/3 vote. Okay, the vote, with our mathematicians up here, is 106 to 41, and the article is passed. Mr. Burke.
A lot of people talking around town saying what I should have gone up there and said, and they didn't. You started this off saying that you had been informed where this is unlawful.
The microphone's checked.
You started off saying you've been informed where this is unlawful, but you didn't state.
No, I never said that.
Well,
I said the articles are legal. The articles are legal, but not necessarily binding.
You've been informed by whom?
The Revenue Department has told us, our solicitor has told us.
As far as a trash pickup goes there, I don't think the Board of Selectmen have got the authority personally. And if they do have that authority, how far can they go on this realm they're going on? Now, Park and Rec might run into a deficit on services. They might take the park right across the street and put a toll booth up there to offset the cost of Park and Rec. I think it's about time we knocked off the baloney and accept services. And they're not in the salesmanship business. Here's what we made on the trash. We made, who? The Board of Selectmen, the town of Clinton? We made on the trash bag fee. It should be a service, like every other service in town, which is always there. Now, if you, say policeman, if I want to call a cop for domestic problem, am I going to be charged accordingly? You're talking about cutting taxes. You're going to start with the ambulances and this and that and so on and so forth. How far are you going to go?
Still under discussion under Article 10. Sir.
Edward Kane, 15 Clamshell Road. Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you, you should not rescind these stickers. You should keep them. They're for your benefit. And you can see what's going on in this state. You can see what's going on in this town. You need the funds. You haven't got it. 2.5 prevents you from getting it unless you override it. Now, they have not once tried to make money upon you on any of these fees that they have raised. They are for bond issues, maintenance, and everything else. You can't just pick rubbish up. You've got to pay to dispose of it. And sooner or later, the state's going to come along and force you into recycling, which you're doing on your own now. It's in your best interest to keep these stickers. Nobody is trying to put anything over on you or anything else. The money was not there. There was no rubbish pickup or stickers. And the only way you can get it is override the 2.5, cut out these fees, or come back here again and start making more cuts with between the water and the storage amounting to $350,000, more than the $191,000 you cut tonight. Now read what you're cutting tonight. And it's bringing you people closer to more lawsuits. It just cost you last year, because of some of those things, $250,000. So before you make your decision, it's not a matter of money. It's a fair way of taxing you people as you use it. It is not on your tax rate. They can't touch your property. You only pay for what you use. And if you don't use it, it costs you nothing. Thank you.
I would like to ask the Board of Selectmen, what guarantees do we have that the trash fee is going to stay at 75 cents a bag?
Could you give your name and address, ma'am, too?
My name is Jane Lamb, 76 Walnut Street.
Thank you.
Was your question, Mr. Moderator?
Yeah, the question is what
we have the trash fee will stay at 75 cents?
Exactly. Yes.
We don't have any guarantee. Obviously, we set the 75 cents, as I stated before, based on 2 bags per household. And the projected revenue at that time during the budget process was projected revenue of $287. Also, you have to understand that we had anticipated starting that program on July 1. We did not start at July 1, we started at July 31. So we started a month late. Obviously, the revenues for that month were not collected. Happily, I can say that the people in Clinton, which this board felt would happen, have truly participated in the program. The recycling program has been tremendously successful. And people have done what they realized had to be done. They conformed to the program, and it has been very successful. You know, I sit up here and I hear people say about, you know, cuts not being made and things not being done, and nothing could be further from the truth. If you take the 1990 budget and the fiscal 1991 budget, there was a cut in appropriations of $514,935. With the cuts tonight that were approved, 191,888, the actual cut is $706,823. This board, in the last several months, has taken a custodian's position, consolidated it, realized immediately a $7,000 savings. We had 2 clerks in the Department of Public Works. There are now 1 clerk. We instituted a policy to stop all in-town mileage. That is an initial savings of $10,000 to $12,000. We are working very hard to do the best we can for you people. Sometimes I think collectively, as a group, we feel like we're almost criminals, because sometimes that's how we're treated. And nothing could be further than the truth. We spend a tremendous amount of time. We try to do the very best we can. We asked you people to elect us to serve you, the taxpayers. We did what we felt was best We are still committed. We saw a service that was being provided by the town. We no longer could afford that service. Our alternative, we felt, was a sticker fee program, which again, as I might add, has been very successful, and you people should be proud of yourselves.
Excuse me. If there is no guarantees that it will stay at 75 cents a bag, what's to keep you from raising it to another $1 next week or next month or 3 months from now? There is no guarantees. Thank you.
Second that, Mr. Moderator.
Okay. Article 16 have been made and seconded. Questions, comments, or discussion? Mr. McGrail.
Mr. Moderator, my name is Bill McGrail. I live at 5 Nugent Avenue. I appear before the meeting as an attorney representing the Clinton Hospital. The purpose for this article is to allow the hospital to put an addition onto the hospital to house what is called a CT or CAT scanner. A CT scanner is a state-of-the-art diagnostic tool. When we researched the site that is appropriate for this diagnostic tool, we were unable to confirm by town map or by county map where Highland Street ended. The only survey that we had was a 1938 survey that was done by the hospital. It is not an official one according to the town or the county. But it does show that that site where the hospital would place the new addition would encroach onto Highland Street. We're talking about the very end of Highland Street that goes into the parking lot where the emergency room is now. We're looking to have the town meeting authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a lease, not to mandate, but to authorize the selectmen to enter into that lease so that the hospital may provide this new service. In central Massachusetts, there are only 3 out of 33 hospitals now that do not have a CT scanner on site. The hospital does provide this service on an interim basis now with a portable CT scanner. The obvious deficiencies are that emergency patients must now be transferred into Worcester to have this service, and patients must wait a longer period of time than is thought appropriate because the portable CAT scanner can only service 6 patients at a visit. That is the reason for this article on the warrant, and on behalf of the Clinton Hospital, I would urge you to approve this article. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 16? There being none, this article requires a 2/3 vote for passage dealing with real estate. Take a vote at this time. All those in favor indicate by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The vote is unanimous and the article is passed.